had a few people ask me if I was the next speaker. I said, I'm the last speaker. So thank you for staying with us and joining us. If you don't mind, since it's the end of the day, and since I'm going to be talking about sports for a little bit, I'm going to take my jacket off. So I'm Rika Nakazawa, and I am so excited to be here. When I was invited to join this illustrious conference, and thank you again, Dimitris and Sophia, and Amy, the incredible organizer for this event, I was told that there were going to be change makers and world changers and incredible high-performing executives, venture founders, VCs, and I thought, okay, what am I going to contribute? I'm in the world of technology. I've been in technology from the beginning of my career. And as I pondered this, and I reminisced about the time that I came to Greece about 15 years ago and marveled at the history and deep roots of culture and tradition, I thought, maybe I can make a bold call to action right here, right now, about the opportunity that Greece has, given its tradition in it being a birthing place of the World Olympics, to imagine a new kind of Olympics that's going to be part of the evolution of where we have come as a human race and our coalescence with technology and digital innovation and AI. And that's what I would like to propose today. It's a modest, very modest proposal, but how about we think about digital Olympians for the next era of humanity? So as you can see, what I have here is my name and rock climber. That's only because if I were to be an Olympian, I would be a rock climber. I will never get there, but I can always hope and try and think about that. So as we talk about the Olympics, and for those of you who are from Greece, born here, raised here, I don't know how much you know about the tradition. I've known a little bit about the Olympics, and as I delved into it, I was fascinated. So of course, the Olympics started with the Greek Olympics, 300 or 400 BC. And it wasn't until 1894 that the International Olympic Committee was formed to say we should bring sporting competitions to the global stage to promote understanding and harmony around the world. The first Olympics that was held in 1896, interestingly, there was only one nation that was represented. Other athletes that came from different parts of the world, just representing themselves. So one country that was, in addition to Greece, of course, was Hungary, the only other country that came as a nation. There were about 250 athletes who came, and coming from 14 different countries, and all of the athletes were men. And the Olympics, when it started, was very much about muscle, physical prowess, and mental fortitude to be able to compete around gymnastics, wrestling, running, and of course, the 1896 Olympics was the debut of the marathon, which perhaps some of you feel sometimes life feels like a marathon, but the point is being able to persevere and get to the goal line. So as I delved into the history of the Olympics, what was very interesting was to observe the growth and evolution, of course. So for those of you who are not familiar with the timelines, as you can imagine, starting from 1894, the number of countries has progressively increased. Women competed for the first time in the 1900s. The Olympic oath, alongside the rings logos, was adopted only in 1920. The oath was, we swear that we are taking part in the Olympic Games as loyal competitors, observing the rules, governing the games, and anxious to show a spirit of chivalry for the honor of our countries and for the glory of the sport. And as you can trace the history, starting from here through time, then World War II intercepted, and then kicked back up again in 1948 in Britain when the first games were broadcast on live TV. And as we move forward, what you can see is progressively more and more how certain socio-political disruptions impacted the Olympics as well. Nonetheless, more and more countries joined in the Olympics, and today there are more countries that compete in the Olympics than are in the United Nations. So, as I mentioned, the Olympics is deeply rooted in physical endurance, high-performance athletes. You have everything from sprinters to long-distance runners with the marathon. And you have that longitudinal speed and length, and you also have the longitudinal long jump, high jump, And of course, my favorite sport that was only a recent Olympic edition is rock climbing. Now, the Olympics takes a lot of investment. And there's a metaphor and an analogy here to think about for the venture landscape. This is taken straight out of Wikipedia as a source of information on the operating budget and the costs and the P&L to run the Olympics. Now, the notation next to the first Olympics, that's in drachmas, and that was at the time, and there was a benefactor named George Averoff. Have any of you heard George Averoff's name before? He was a Greek Egyptian who was very successful in business. And thanks to him, they were able to reconstruct the theater for the sprint races, which was the loop. And it was a theater that was used in the Greek Olympics that they needed to restructure. And so he contributed 1 million drachmas, which at the time was $3,000, augmenting that with the total cost to the Olympics. But the reason why I point this out is to show you the varying levels of investment that comes in and what comes out. And of course, it's not just about the country making a profit. It's about the country being able to be a platform, to be able to draw people to there, to be able to promote this spirit of harmony, chivalry, and pursuit of excellence and high performance. Now, as we go through time, you start to see extra zeros, no surprise, added to the end. And this is with the Winter and the Summer Olympics. And notably, the most expensive Olympics was Sochi, which cost $51 billion to put on. Now, what's interesting is that they made a profit from that investment that they put in. And of course, I am not an auditor. I have not audited these numbers. I've taken them off of Wikipedia, so I'll give the credit where credit's due on pulling these numbers in and attributing that accordingly. And as we can see, as we come into the next Olympics, there's been varying degrees of investments and what the output comes out of it. And for the athletes, the people that are in the arena doing the sport, blood, sweat, and tears, and training for the Olympics, because that's the other thing that we forget, is that the 4-year time between each of the Olympics, summer and winter, there's so much that's going on around driving towards the performance, towards the goals, towards the records. And what ends up happening is you win a medal, gold, silver, or bronze. Now, the medal itself is actually not that precious from a value perspective of the medal in the medal. And the gold medal actually only has about 6 grams of gold in it. The rest of it is silver. The silver medal is 100% silver, and the bronze medal is actually mostly copper, which, by the way, now with EVs and whatnot, copper is now very valuable again. And so the medal represents the defining moment for the athletes that are training to demonstrate their prowess and to be able to compete and win against other countries. Now, the most expensive medal that was sold, and this is something that I also found quite surprising, inspiring, but also a little saddening, is that some of these athletes, as they've moved on, have sometimes found it hard to make their way in high performing outside of the Olympic arena. And so some of them had to resort to selling their medals. And as I mentioned, they're not worth much in terms of the medal itself, but they've been sold for a few $1,000s here or there. And the most expensive medal, I believe, was one of the medals that was at the first 1896 Olympics that sold for several $1,000s. This is how much I was meant to talk about this today with you here. When I arrived to Athens yesterday via Newark, I was watching one of the programs because I was too dazed and confused to do any work, which was my intention. I'm writing a book right now about sustainability and digital innovation. And I watched the show called Eating Our Way to Extinction. And it was very eye-opening. For any of you that do see it, just be prepared. You may take a second look at sushi and sashimi and other food items that show up on your plate. But this also was very inspiring because I said, okay, this is where I need to focus, and I'll get to that particular vignette in a moment. So this gentleman this is David Verberge. He's American, and he was a gold medalist in the Rio de Janeiro Olympics 2016 in the 4x4 relay. He was on the show. That's why these pictures are so horrible, because I was there taking a picture of the video headset on the seat in front of me. And the woman next to me was wondering what I was doing. But the point here is he was talking about how after he was in the Olympics, he became, through a sequence of happenings that happened in his life, he became present to this idea around biodiversity and sustaining the life of animals. And so he's now become a vegan. And so I thought, okay, this is great, right? This is really telling me this is kismet. I need to talk about this and relate it to what we have an opportunity to do here today with all of you. These are the UN SDGs. You've probably seen this on a pin. You've probably seen it somewhere. But for the benefit of us reminding ourselves so that we don't just glaze over this each time, which is easy to do, these are the commitments that the United Nations made in 2016 that was ratified by members of the UN, that yes, we must, as a global community, work towards these goals so that we collectively can be an economic, social, and sustainable community around the world. So no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry, innovation, and infrastructure, reduced inequalities, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, climate action, life below water, life on land, peace and justice and strong institutions, and partnerships for the goals. Now, when I saw number 17, of course, as I'm putting my talk together, I was like, that looks like the Olympic rings, but just reorganized. So the point about the SDGs, what's really interesting is that it gives us a roadmap. We humans, in order to be able to advance, we need to have a vision, a purpose, or a goal to be able to know what direction we're going in. We need that North Star. So the good news is the United Nations has done this for us around sustainable development goals. The challenge is, so what? And the International Olympic Committee did try to see how they were going to address this. So when I first saw this deck from the IOC that was, I think, in 2017, that was published, I thought, oh, they were one step ahead of me. They've already talked about this. This is going to be so unoriginal. But actually, what the IOC was doing with their sustainability strategy was they were saying, okay, what is our commitment to those UN SDGs, and how do we do that within how we operate? Not the opportunity that we have here today as digital innovators. Nonetheless, huge kudos to the Olympic Committee for thinking about this, because there is a certain responsibility that we have when we take hundreds and thousands of athletes that have learned discipline, that have learned grit, that have learned how to be creative to be able to achieve the impossible. You have an incredible community of people that are already overachievers. And so to be able to start embedding that idea of sustainability into these athletes is part of the way that we're going to be able to drive things forward. So what is it that I have my modest proposal around is that we, as a group of innovators and digital denizens, can think about how we create a new kind of Olympics. We're on a new era of high-performance global teams. I lived in Silicon Valley from 2006 to 2021. I moved there from New York. I'm originally from Japan, by the way, from Tokyo, so another city that people tend to think when they think Blade Runner. So perhaps, I come from a city that's already quite digitalized in many ways, which is a bit of a misrepresentation in media. But the idea here is that we can take this era that we're in now, and to be able to take the fact that we are progressively moving into highly digitalized environments. XR is at the pinnacle of that, along with AI, and think about the role that we have to shape our future. And part of that is what we're already doing already inadvertently. This is not a geological lesson, but it is interesting to look at the geologic history of where we've been as a human race on this Earth. Debatable how the Earth was formed. We're not going to get into that debate. But anyway, roughly speaking, if you take science and you look at the rocks and everything, Earth formed about 4.5 billion years ago. And we've moved through these geologic eras of time. Various things happen, freezing, heat, everything here on Earth. And until 1950, the Earth was what people call a Holocene. And Holocene was when we were living in equilibrium. We had seasons, we had meltdowns, heat-ups, meltdowns, freeze-ups, the whole thing. But nonetheless, there was this equilibrium of how we existed with Earth. Around 1950, which intentionally coincides with the Industrial Revolution, with productivity shifting, with oil and gas and fossil fuels, and this next industrial revolution that fundamentally transformed in was the early days of some of the technology and the way that we've evolved to today with Industry 4.0, we as humans started to shape our Earth. And this is the root of the climate change conversations that are going on. We are materially having an impact on the globe, on the animal kingdom, on the water, the oceans, the land. And if you watch Eating Our Way to Extinction, you'll be blown away as to how much we've been just changing the face of arable and visible land. And so we're now in an era called the Anthropocene. And anthropo stands for human. So we are impacting the world around us. Now, in 1969, Buckminster Fuller wrote this book called Operating Manual for Spaceship Earth. And he had this metaphor that humans, up to certain points, we were what he called pirates. And in some textbooks that you read in sustainability, it's the cowboy theory. So wild, wild west, everything is free, everything is in abundance, we're just going to take it. And his point with the spaceship Earth metaphor is to say, this is a spaceship. We have limited resources. There are causal links of everybody that's in the Earth, and what we do has an impact in one way, shape, or form on what happens. And we have to do something about thinking on the role that we play and the impact that we're going to be able to make. For the scientists in the room, you might recognize the name Buckminster Fuller because he is behind the notion of buckyball, which is a carbon-60 compound. It's called after the geodesic dome, which I think some of that structure has been widely used in cities like Athens. And he was ultimately an engineer and a creative thinker. He was an architect. And he was a big proponent of technology. And he said, I do know that technologically, humanity now has the opportunity for the first time in its history to operate our planet in such a manner as to support and accommodate all humanity at a substantially more advanced standard of living than any humans have ever experienced. And that was in 1969 to 1970, 50 years before where we are today, where there's a hyper-focus and a vigilance around this. In my world at NTT, I focus a lot around emerging technologies. And this is partly why I love this topic. I was about to say I love my own idea. I love the topic of thinking about the role that emerging technologies play in how industries are transformed. So this is an image from Gartner, 2021 to 2023 Emerging Technology Roadmap. And what you have here are varying levels of deployment of things around network, security, digital workplace, IT automation, storage and databases, compute infrastructure, and platform services. And XR is an amalgamation of all of these ways that these innovations are happening in industry. And with this burst, literal burst of emerging technologies, there's a panoply of different ways that we can leverage these things to be able to drive things forward. And XR is one of the fulcrums that we're going to be able to do that. As you saw, the Olympics, the traditional Olympics, required a huge amount of investment. The good news is the investment is only rising around things like climate-related private equity. So there's this arena called climate tech, which is where digital innovations and technologies are helping to drive the ways that we're going to impact climate change, get to net zero, even now there's carbon capture, other ways that GHG is having an impact, energy, clean energy, water management, pollution management, social justice, health equity. There's a whole host of different things that we need to solve for. But if we just look at climate tech alone, in 2022, over $1 trillion was spent in public and private money to solve for clean energy. And you can see that all the industries are involved when you look at the spectrum over on your right. So the good news is the money is there, and what we need are the creative thinkers and the entrepreneurs that are going to seize this moment in time. And in Silicon Valley, we have this idea of hackathons that started, I don't know if it started in Silicon Valley. I was living in Silicon Valley when I started to see more and more hackathons. And if you don't know what a hackathon is essentially a 3-day period, usually, give or take, where various software designers, engineers, product managers will all form a team and work on a problem and come up with an application, and that application is judged. That's what a hackathon is. And it's been going on for decades, roughly. There's more and more hackathons that are focusing on sustainability. This particular picture was taken from Caltech. Universities in particular are hosting a lot of these hackathons, underwritten by the Microsofts and Googles and the larger technology companies, because they're interested in figuring out how innovators are going to use their technology to do breakthrough new ways of applying that. And so the money is there. It's only growing. Climate tech, compared to other investment areas, has been rapidly rising, relatively speaking, to the other groups. And there are more and more people that are trying to think about how to solve these challenges that we are facing. And of course, as you can imagine, it is the next generation that are very anxious about this, because the millennial, Gen Z, Alpha, they're the ones that are going to be inheriting some of the challenges that we are leaving behind from the generations preceding that. So that is where I think we have an opportunity to take this moment of thinking about where we are. The Hellenic tradition is what spawned Greek Olympics. 3,000 years later from the Greek Olympics, and roughly 127 years after the International Olympics was ordained in 1896, we can take this conference as perhaps a platform to think about how do we create a new kind of Olympics that's born here and propagates to international sites around the world, to bring teams from different parts of the world to compete using XR and other adjacent technologies to solve some of these UN SDG challenges that are facing us today. So an Olympic Games showcasing sustainability solutions powered by digital innovations. And this wouldn't be a closing keynote without me invoking ChatGPT. So I said to ChatGPT, okay, what does a digital innovation Olympic Games look like for sustainability? And this is what it said. An Olympic Games focused on sustainability solutions using technology innovation could involve a number of different events and activities. Here are some ideas. 1, sustainability hackathon. Sustainability-focused hackathon could bring together developers, designers, entrepreneurs to brainstorm and develop solutions to global sustainability challenges. Participants should be given challenges related to renewable energy, reducing waste, sustainable agriculture, and so on. The hackathon could take place over several days, and winners could be awarded prizes for their innovative solutions. Number 2, sustainable technology exhibition in the dome. I added that part. A sustainable technology exhibition could showcase the latest innovation in sustainable technology. Participants could exhibit their products, solutions, and ideas related to renewable energy, sustainable transportation, and more. This could be a great opportunity for investors, policymakers, and the public to see how technology is being used to address sustainability challenges. And I wanted to just call out the policymakers, because I didn't mention that earlier, is that some of the work that I've been doing around sustainability has really been focusing on the role that policymakers, governments, and states and cities play. It's essential that we bring that into the picture. Number 3, sustainable sports challenge. And when I saw that one, I was like, oh, this is just about how to be more sustainable in the sports that we do. And surprisingly, their ChatGPT's response was the Olympic Games could include a sustainable sports challenge where athletes compete in events that are designed to highlight the importance of sustainability. For example, athletes could compete in a race where they have to collect recyclable materials as they run. Or they could compete in a cycling race where they generate power to charge batteries for electric vehicles. Right? ChatGPT surprised me for once. Number 4, sustainable infrastructure showcases. The Olympic Games could feature a showcase of sustainable infrastructure solutions, such as smart buildings, green roofs. I noticed the green garden roof that's right across from the hotel, the Marriott. It's beautiful. And sustainable transportation. This could be a great opportunity for cities like Athens and companies to show off their sustainability initiatives and inspire others to follow their lead. And then number 5, a sustainability conference. The Olympic Games could also include a sustainability conference where experts from around the world come together to discuss the latest innovations, challenges, and opportunities related to sustainability. Focus on topics like renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, sustainable cities. This is the conclusion of ChatGPT. Overall, an Olympic Games focused on sustainability solutions using technology innovation could be a great opportunity to showcase the latest innovations, connect like-minded people, and inspire change towards a more sustainable future. So, that is the proposition I have, Sophia and Dimitris, is we have a framework. This is undisputed, already accepted by fewer countries than do the Olympics in the United Nations, but we already have that there, and it's a baseline for us. And you already have a community of like-minded people that can be the starting point for that, across hardware, software makers, designers, venture capitalists, entrepreneurs, and so on. And what's in it for the people that are competing? Yes, it might be cool to get a full suite headset from HTC, get a Vive, the newest edition, actually maybe get it early before anybody else does, or to be able to get some sort of monetary prize, recognition from a city, a shake with the governor's hand, president's Medal of Honor. But speaking of medals, really what the opportunity here for anybody who's competing is the blue marble medal. This was a picture that was taken from Apollo in the 1960s by an astronaut. And its impact is actually the most shared photo of any photo to date. Because it was a moment where the astronaut proclaimed that he realized how, not insignificant, but how small we are in comparison to the rest of the world, but also it connoted a fragility of this spaceship called Earth. And so it was dubbed the blue marble at the time that the astronaut took the picture. And this, my colleagues, friends, family, this is the medal that we all need to be striving for. So we can all be digital Olympians for sustainability. And I'll close with saying that, I'll put this out here now too. With my bold proposal comes my bold goal that should we have the opportunity to run these Olympics starting here in Athens this year, that by 2030, I will be a gold medalist in the blue economy space. It's not because I'm a Pisces, maybe it partly is, but I've always had an affinity for the ocean. So when I watched that film, Eating Our Way to Extinction, and understanding what we are doing to water around us, which is greater than the landmass, it was very disheartening. But I am always going to be an optimist about the opportunities that we have to move things forward. And I, for one, will do the best and the darnest that I can to get a gold medal around blue economy. And I invite all of you to think, and if the UN SDGs is helpful, what is going to be your gold medal, aspiration, goal, and ultimate achievement? Thank you very much.